I now recognize Mr. Posey for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good to see you, Administrator Regan.
Yes, good to see you.
Last month, a company in my district that makes outboard motors for its main customer, the U.S. Navy SEALs, was raided by armed agents of the EPA. And I tried to get together and talk to you about this, but your office said it was enforcement sensitive, so I wasn't able to do that. Since this case involves the use of national security exemptions, I just wonder how the EPA dealt with requests seeking regulatory clarity involving national security exemptions.
Well, thank you for that question. And sorry we couldn't get together. I do have some limitations in terms of that specific case because of the Office of Inspector General's investigation and EPA's. But what I would say is the Clean Air Act gives us flexibility to look at Clean Air Act flexibilities for vehicles as it relates to national security interests. So I'd love for our staffs to get together to think about whether or not this specific case outside of the investigation fits into a future discussion with the Clean Air Act flexibility.
Thank you. Do you think it might be possible to expand the exemption to first responders like fire, emergency medical services, law enforcement, and et cetera?
You know, our folks have had some conversations with those entities along with the manufacturers, have not really seen the need for that flexibility. I think most of our flexibilities are reserved for national security interests, but we're open to those discussions, and so I'd love to get our staffs together to talk about that.
This committee has come to learn that the EPA has spent $10 million on advanced combat equipment for enforcement operations. Could you briefly explain why we need advanced combat equipment in the Environmental Protection Agency?
You know, I'm not quite familiar with that piece there, so I'll have to get back get back to you on that piece there.
Okay, I had some more questions about that issue, but I'll respect that, and we'll get back together on it.
Absolutely.
Switching subjects, the EPA's Inspector General sent a memo to the agency in April identifying that grant recipients were not required to disclose foreign support after receiving a grant. This means that an EPA grant recipient could receive both federal funding and foreign support during a grant's period of performance. It also means a country like China could influence the environmental findings that the EPA uses. And so I just wonder if you're familiar with this memo. And it's from the EPA, and inquiring about what steps the agency might take to ensure full transparency from grant recipients since receiving the memo. And I ask you unanimous consent to enter this memo into the record. It's dated April 13th, 2020, and it's Management Implication Report, Disclosure of Foreign Support for EPA Research and Grants.
Into the record.
Thank you.
I'm not quite sure if I know specifically what's in that memo. I can tell you that we have taken a number of steps to strengthen our research grants disclosure requirements consistent with the NDAA of 2021. We've also responded to concerns raised by our Office of Inspector General, and we've updated the terms and conditions of our research grants to ensure that grantees provide disclosures about sources of funding both before they get the grants and on an ongoing basis once they receive those grants. So we have responded to the IG's suggestions there.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the balance of my time.
Thank you.